everyone, it's Gavin from Balls to You, and in this video we're going to be building my new LP hatchling rack. For those who don't know, I am the UK distributor of LP racks, including the LP tubs. Now what does that mean? That basically means here in the UK you can get your LP racks and tubs with less stress and less headache. I take all that on board for you. So I've ordered a rack. This is my new hatchling rack, which I'm redoing the hatchling room, which I'll share with you in another video. But what I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to show you the simplicity of how to build these racks. Now, many of you here in the UK or in Europe have already built them before. However, a few of you haven't really come across them, so you may not know what they're about. This is going to give us a good in-depth look at the quality of the rack, how they come, and exactly how we put them together. So without further ado, I'm going to shut up, let's get into the video, let's look at some racks. So just for those people who don't know or aren't aware, LP racks actually come flat packed, which is awesome. So basically you get a few boxes of bits, box of levels, and as you can see, I've started opening this one over here. So as you can see, they come very neatly packed. Okay, I'm going to get these shelves out and start showing you guys exactly what's what. In the box here of bits, I've just quickly opened it so we can have a quick look. So we get the instructions, which again I'll go over shortly. We get all the foam pads, we get all the casters, we get the actual spacers in between the levels, we get the heat mats. But I'm going to make a start. Just wanted to show you guys obviously how they come, because a lot of people aren't aware that basically these are fantastic for transporting. Makes it very easy, and also if you wanted to move house, you could just simply flat pack them back down and move them to your new property. So I'm going to shut up, I'm going to get on with this build. So this is the first thing you want to do, guys, when you get to the starting grid. So what you want to do is lay out however many you have, i.e. however many columns you have, and set it up just loosely like that. Now in one of the bags you'll find the casters, you'll also find the brass aluminium spacers for the casters, you'll find the bolts or the Allen keys, put the washers on like so, the spacer washers. These big bolts are for the end, so leave them till the very end. And then we've got some bracing parts, some bracing bolts here, which we need for the bracers. So basically we're going to build up the casters first, and then we'll get on, and then I'll show you guys how we get on building this part. So these are now made up, all 8 of them. Now all I simply do, I just simply tighten it using, so I hold on to it with this hand, and then I use the Allen key to tighten it up until you feel it hit the stop, and that's when that washer there is squashed down. That's as far as you need to go, guys. You don't need to ramp these up. That washer is designed, that spring washer is designed to put the tension on there, which helps it lock it into place. Again, these casters are absolutely awesome. They've got a rubber finish on here, and they are absolutely fantastic for the job. Now when we are setting out our rack, the way I do it, and it will say clearly in the instructions as well, just there, is the middle one will lie on top of the one on the left and the one on the right. Okay, so it's going to lie on top, so the one in the middle is going to be your highest level. And when I say highest, we're talking at like probably 1.5 mil, 3 mil at the most, but that's basically how it's going to work. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put the casters on loosely, and then we're going to look at the spacers which space the levels between the rack. So within your box of bits, you're going to get 2 more small boxes. Okay, these contain the spacers. Now it's important that you do not mix these 2 up, and I'm going to show you why. So if we look at these 2, I've already kind of laid out. Not sure if you can see that. So they're level, and then they're basically this one here is longer than this one. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So the one that is shorter has a smooth finish. Okay, the one that is longer, that goes on the outer edge, has that sort of a groove in it. Now the long ones go on the outer edges, okay? That's because your middle level or your one level, this side, or whether it be if you've got two, whichever one, yeah, these are going to be for the exterior legs. So these go all the way on the outside over there, yeah, and all the way around. And again, the shorter ones are going to come in the middle. So that's why it's important not to mix these up, okay? Because what you don't want to do is fit these on the end and get them all mixed up, because then the rack will all be uneven. So we're going to start connecting these spacers up for the levels, and then we're going to start adding some more levels as we go. I'm going to try and do this as best as possible with one hand. As you can see, I've started making up the levels and I'm up to the third level already. So I thought now would be a fantastic time to show you the quality of the rack and exactly what's involved in the process, etc, etc. First of all, these levels are mild steel that are galvanized and then powder coated for this finish. So we have 2 layers of rust protection. Now these, as you can see, are all folded. There's no welds, less sort of issues for things to go wrong and rust and stuff like that. So obviously every time the rack is exposed or the metal is exposed, then you're going to get rust. It's simple, guys. Paint chips, you're going to get rust. Anything like that, it's going to get rusty. So as you can see, this is how the rack is put together. And what we do, we take the legs, we screw them down by hand, one at a time, like so. Then we put a level on, and then we'll go in and we'll put these on. So what I'll do now, I'll just get this level on. Hopefully I can do it one-handed. So it's very simple. All you do, locate it over, like so, okay? Then all you do is bring it, push it down, and again, push it down, and follow the procedure or the process, like so, and push it down. So obviously we're exposing the legs, okay, or the spacers. So obviously what we're going to do now, I'll put the foam mats on in a moment, I'll show you that. So we're going to take the correct spacers. So this one obviously doesn't have the cutout because the cutouts go on the outside, and all we're going to do is simply screw that on by hand, like so. And the great thing about it is you don't need to tighten this like mad, okay? So all we're doing is just screwing down the plastic spacers like so. Remember, the ones with the cutouts are for the outside, they're a tiny bit longer. So we're just going to repeat this process all the way around, just show you how easy it is. And again, what I love about these racks is how simple they are to put together and how easy they are. So if you've got a part that's damaged or you need something replaced, or you even want to add a level, and that's the other thing, adding a level to these are just so easy. It's just, yeah, it's easy. Like so. Last one, again the right one, like so. Okay, onto the foam pads. Now the foam pads are pretty easy. This is what your heat mat is going to sit on, and what's important about these heat mats, especially the one in the middle, okay, we need to have a little cutout for the heat mat wire. So we're going to do a cutout for this, which is really easy to do, and I'll show you exactly how we do it in a moment. So this mat will basically sit across all 3 pads and the wire will come out in the middle. Now what we tend to do is we tend to turn the mat upside down like so, so we've got a nice flush finish, and that will sit perfectly on the cutout. Now where do we put the mats, I hear you say? So if I just loosely put it down, you'll see exactly what I mean. So what I do, so where this cutout is, I kind of make that perfectly in line, okay? And it comes across here like so. And that's what I do for all of them. Make sure they're nice and even, like so. So that's my marker there, okay, where I'm going to put the foam pads. And the reason for that is because when the heat mat goes on, it's going to get stuck and it's going to stop here. And where's the cutout? There. So the cutout goes in the middle, and the way we do the cutout, pretty easy, or this is the way I do it. I take a pad, I fold it in half like so, and then all I do is I cut that corner off, which I'll show you now, like so. There's no science to it, guys, and then when we open it up, we've got a nice cutout there. So when that goes like so, the heat mat, then its wire can just rest like that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully these little things will help you as you're building yours. And I really enjoy building mine. I love it. I'm a bit of a geek, but yeah, love it. So the only other thing that we're going to fit here are these plastic spacers. Now where I stick mine is there. Okay, now what these do, these help the tubs stay level as you're pulling them in and out, and it's important to fit these, and I think it's easier to do it as we go. Again, just open them up, pull the sticky back off and just stick them down. I'll just try and sort of make it even like so. And you want to bring it close to the front if you can, and that's what I find works. And this is for the LP5. Obviously the other racks are very similar, the way they work, the way they operate. You just may have to move these spacers in certain areas, but again, the diagrams will show you as you build up your rack. So let's get on with the build. So one thing I want you guys to do as you're building this is to add the braces. Okay, the side braces are important, and it's probably easier if you do it as you build. Now I do it at the end, but I know a few people prefer to do it as a go. So the best thing to do, you start with the bottom one. So once you've built probably 3 or 4 levels up, get your braces out. Start with the side. There are some for the back as well, as you can see. So what you want to do, start with the bottom holes furthest away. The instructions may show you, and then you're going to bolt as you go. Now this can be a bit fiddly, a bit awkward. You may need a few tools like I showed you at the beginning to help you, a few pliers, a bit of a screwdriver, but ultimately as you build it should be pretty easy to put these in. Now on these instructions it tells me to miss a level, which I've done, and then you go to the next one. Okay, so as you can see I've missed and then gone up and onto the very top. Okay, so ultimately what we're doing is we're bracing as we go, and again around the back, as you can see. Now on some of the racks the braces are different, some are shorter, some are longer. You'll just have to figure out, and I'm pretty certain the instructions for your rack will tell you which ones are which, but pretty much there it is, all built in its glory. It is a 3 column sort of 10 high, which comes just above my just above my waist. And yes, I know I'm short, but it just comes just above my waist, and that will hold 90 hatchlings very comfortably. The next step that we're going to go to now is we're going to look at the electrics. And again, I've fitted these, and what I want you guys to understand with these, all I do on all mine is doing finger tight. You don't want to over tighten them down because it is a plastic leg, and all I do is, because when I tighten them down sort of hand tight or finger tight should I say, it enables me then just to be able to, if I want to add more levels, very easily just unscrew these like so and fit some new legs and then fit another level. So don't over tighten these as well, guys. These, as you tighten, hold the levels together, So it's all pretty much sort of tightened down lovely. Okay, so these are just kind of just finish off the top level, and like I said, if you want to add another level, you just unscrew these, you buy the level with all the bits, and you just add the level like so. So there it is. Let's get on to the electrics. So let's have a look at the electrics. So the electrics on this particular rack, so we've got 10 levels. Okay, that's 10 heat mats. That's obviously one mat per level. Okay, those mats are actually around 35 watts each. Now what I tend to do is I tend to separate my racks. I either give them 2 stats, 3 stats, 4 stats, whatever I feel like. On the female racks there are 4 stats controlling the levels. Okay, so there's 4 stats, 12 rows of my females. On this particular setup, I've divided 5 heat mats and 5 heat mats, so we've got basically 2 lots of 5. However, I'm going to show you guys how to set up one stat on this rack, and one stat on this rack can power this rack. And the stats I like to advise for people to use are the Habistat, pulse proportional thermostat, which are a maximum of 600 watts. Now I like to use the black ones because I like to be a little bit different. So if you've got 10 mats at 35 watts each, that's 350 watts of power at full pelt, so at full blast. Those mats are going to be taking 350 watts. As you can see, this can take up to 600 watts. Now for me, I never want to be 600 watts or as close to 600 watts. I like to keep it in the middle, sort of about half, and this one stat will operate this rack without no problems. Once this rack gets up to temperature, then we'll literally be probably drawing less than 100 watts. Okay, obviously it depends on your room, all that sort of stuff, but it's going to be drawing less than 100 watts. Now I know a lot of people are afraid when it comes down to the electrics, which I completely and utterly understand, and if you are unsure or you're worried, please ask an expert. I've been doing this for a number of years, I know electrics, so I'm all good. The one thing I don't do as well, not on this rack anyway, or on some of my racks I haven't done this, is I haven't used the silver foil tape. Okay, so I haven't used the silver foil tape there to keep the mats down. Literally, once I turn it on and the mats get up to temperature, and obviously we've got the tubbing, it will sort of help the mats level out. You can use the silver foil tape if you wish, it's entirely up to you, but I like to use this floating heat mat kind of a design. Let's get into how I've run the cabling. We're using the bolt holes in the rack to help us keep the mats nice and tidy and the heat cables nice and tidy. And what you can also get, I don't know if you can see these little sort of wiring tidy clips. Again, you can use the spare nuts and bolts which you get with the rack, sort of make that look pretty. And again, just using some cable ties. Now it's all about wire management. So we got 5 coming down here, going over this way and onto this side, and then we've got 5 coming this way, coming back up and coming onto this side. Now this is a surge protected 10 gang extension lead, and what you'll find with proper extension leads, if they are up to the job, they should only, well, the ones that are sold in the UK should only be up to the job, let's put it like that. But you'll find that the wire is quite thick, almost twice as thick as these. So the long and short of it is, don't be afraid to use an extension lead like that. If you are unsure, please don't hesitate to speak to a professional. These are the European plugs and these are the adapters. They are fused. Hopefully you guys can see that they are fused. You can get these for about £1 each, something like that, £2 each off Amazon or eBay, and all they do, they basically open up, you put these inside, close them shut, and then screw them, and it's done. No cutting of any wires, etc. A lot of people sometimes cut the plugs off and wire it into a junction box. For me, this I feel is a lot more safer than wiring it into a junction box, and you have a lot more control. So again, that stat can take 600 watts. This rack at full pelt is only going to be drawing 350 watts. So let's look at the probe placement. So let's talk about setting up your stat, and we're going to specifically talk about probe placement. So first and foremost, if I'll just show you, basically we've got a dial. This is what's called like an analog system. So the long and short of it is, I tend to set mine at 88, just under 32 degrees Celsius, and basically I get it up to temperature. Now what you will find on a rack such as this, or most sort of professional racks where they've got the open-ended, open sides, open backs, your tubs on the end, along the top and along the bottom, will run cooler than the tubs in the middle. Do you know why? Because all the heat is in that area. So these tubs will tend to run a little bit cooler. It's not anything to worry about because the snakes can thermoregulate. And if we take a look from the side, if we see where the heat mat is in conjunction with the actual tub, okay, the heat mat is only on, let's say, a third of the actual tub. So that means the snake can go right to the cool end, somewhere in the middle, or on the hot end. They can thermoregulate. It's entirely up to them. Okay, and that's what's important. A lot of us worry too much about temperatures. If it's too hot, that obviously can be detrimental to the snake. You want it, it's better to be slightly too cold than it is too warm. So the one thing I do, I'm going to try and cover all aspects here. Let's take out one of these LP tubs. So whenever I check temperatures, I check it without the substrate, because the snake can bury down to the hot spot there. That's the hot spot, not on top of the substrate there. Okay, so when we're doing our enclosure setup, we don't want to take the temperature that's sitting on top of the substrate. We want to take it actually at the bottom, because if they are too cold, they can bury themselves down and warm themselves up. The other thing is the substrate can actually act as a thermogradient. So what I mean by that is it can actually absorb some of the heat. So it gives us this nice little gradient of heat there, okay, and it will help them thermoregulate. So if they're too cold, they can go down here, go in the water bowl, or if they're too cold, they can go and warm themselves up. Most of my animals tend to stay in the middle, but again, let the animal choose where they want to be. So it's good that we can have a smaller heat source, because it allows the animal to have a much greater thermoregulation over its body temperature. So with that in mind, like I said, I would advise you guys to set these outer tubs at around 88 to 87, and we're going to adjust / dial in the stat as and when we need. So let's look at where we're going to place the probe. So as you can see, first of all, one tip I want to say is don't cover the probe with the electrical foil tape. You see the foil tape there? It's holding the probe in place, and then we've got the probe there basically in the middle, in between, okay, the one tub and the other tub. Now it's not in the middle of the middle, it's off to the center here. Now I've set this up, so what you can do, you can start with your probe in the middle of the middle, which would be there, and then slowly work your way out, moving the probe to where you want it to go, where you're finding you're getting the most even temperatures. But what a lot of people do, they use the foil tape just there, and they actually end up covering the sensor, which is not what they want, what not you want to do basically. You want to get the gradient heat from that mat. It will give you more adjustment on the stat. Okay, so once you've done that and once you've found where your probe is happy, use a cable tie and cable tie that in place as well, because the last thing you want is that foil tape to come undone, the probe falls off, and guess what, the whole rack is going to go straight up to the top and you could end up hurting your animals. So that's how I set up my probe placement. Unfortunately, you're going to have to trial and error it, guys. It's not something that's going to be, you know, you're going to be able to dial it in straight away. It may take a bit of adjustment. Once you understand how to do it, it will make your life a hell of a lot easier when you build these racks in the future. So that's how I set it up. What I then do is I then plug this in and I let it get up to temperature, come back and check, and I do some various checks from top to bottom, left to right, middle to bottom, and middle to the outer edge, and all that sort of jazz. And then all I do is simply dial this in until my temperature gun, because I'm using a temperature gun to read the hot spots, reads 88 roughly, and again we're working on an average through all the tubs on the outer, upper and lower ends. That way when we come into the middle is going to be roughly about 90 degrees, something around them lines. But again, as long as it's around 88 you'll be fine. Put your snakes in and then just adjust as you see the snakes start to move and either go to the front or the back. You can just adjust the stat to suit. Now what you can do, what I like, how I do this and what I like about this, if I wanted to, I could have those 5 on one stat, those 5 on another stat, and if I wasn't using the bottom row, I could actually switch off the first 5 rows and only use the top 5 rows. So just a little, little tip. So yeah, hopefully that answers the questions on the electrical side of things, on the LP rack system and how I do the electrics and how I set up the stat. How about we have a look at the rack in full swing?
I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, vintage friends on my face, looking like I'm from the deep. These no Cartiers, pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peep, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like, whoa. That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, yo, no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a bald head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas then.